Ahmad bin Hanbal al-Shaybani from Bani Shayban. He was born in Baghdad in the year of 164 of Hijrah, and he died in the year 241 of Hijrah. Some people said he was born in Maru, part of Turkmenistan. So you always have these differences. What's the place, the birthplace of this person or that person? His grandfather was a governor for the Umayyads in Khurasan. But he later on, his grandfather joined the Abbasi call, and as a result, the Umayyads harmed him, went after him. His father, on his turn, was a soldier, joined the Abbasis, so his family moved to Baghdad, and they remained supporters of the Abbasis, but they didn't take official positions. Why? Because the Abbasis counted on some ethnic races like the Persians and the Turks. That's well known in history. Now, his initial education started with the Kuttab, learned reading and writing, and then he learned Diwan, writing in certain style and certain way. He witnessed 8 caliphs from among the Abbasis. Ali al-Mahdi ibn al-Mansur, al-Hadi ibn al-Mansur, Harun al-Rashid, al-Amin, al-Ma'mun, al-Mu'tasim, al-Wathiq ibn al-Mu'tasim, al-Mutawakkil ibn al-Mu'tasim. So as you see, from the year 159 to 247. Now, this list of caliphs actually mark 2 eras of the Abbasis. The first era is the establishment and the strength of the Abbasis, and then the second starts with Al-Mutawakkil. Now, why did I made different colors? Because when we'll talk about the creators of Quran, it started by Al-Amin. Harun Rashid was opposing it. It started in Al-Amin, then Al-Ma'mun adopted it and started forcing people to take it, and he was jailed, Ahmad bin Hanbal, at the end of the life of Al-Ma'mun, and continued till Al-Mu'tasim, Al-Wathiq, on and off. And Al-Mutawakkil reversed the position, and we'll talk about it in more details. So he went through all of this history-wise. Now, the second era has feature which is, it's the era of the Turk influence, not the Persians. The Persians at the first era. Second era of the Abbasis was an era of Turks influence. Now, politically speaking, when we talk about politics, how the situation was, many movements emerged against the Abbasis. Keep in mind that the Abbasis revolted against the Umayyads. So on their turn, many movements emerged against the Abbasis. The Abbasis initially counted on Persian figures such as Abu Muslim al-Khurasani, but al-Mansur finally, he plotted to kill him in the year 137. And after that, many revolutions have occurred. Those 3 revolutions, all of them are heretic ones. Rawandi movement split from the Makhramiyya or Khurramiyya, Babik al-Khurrami, and it split from Mazdak roots. Mazdak believed in the duality, that you have 2 powers governing people, and he thought that women are the source for all evil. So that's why he called for that women should be, astaghfirullah, publicly owned by everyone in the society. And al-Mizdakiyya and al-Khurramiyya called for this. Babik al-Khurrami called for this, among many other things. And then you have a Zanadiqa, and you have, of course, a Shu'ubiyyun, those who opposed Arabic race. All of them nourished among Persians and were intellectual and political. It's not political only. They carried certain intellectual ideas. And the Abbasis used two different approaches with them. The first one is the military approach, and the second one is the intellectual approach. The intellectual approach was delegated to Al-Mu'tazila, because Al-Mu'tazila, which is a group emerged during the days of the Umayyads, Mu'tazila are very intellectual. And they were able to engage in a discussion with all of those groups. And there are reservations regarding Al-Mu'tazila. That's not the point. But the point is that they were intellectuals, and the Abbasis counted on them in order to address those groups, Khurramiyya, Zanadiqa, Rawandiyya, and so on. But Al-Mu'tazila, like we said, they emerged during the Umayyads, and they were challenged by Ahl al-Sunnah. Regarding the social structure, many races lived in Baghdad. You have Arabs, Persians, Turks, Kurdish, Indians, Romans, and even Zinj. They use it in Arabic history. They use the word Zinj. And the Zinj even have revolution also. The colored people have revolution from between 255 to 256. This is what happened by the Zinj because of many reasons. One reason is that the Persians and Turks were influential, and then there was no balance in the society. Richness and poverty coexisted during the Abbasis. The poverty was used against the Abbasis by some movements, such as the Zinj rebellion, like we said. This movement was initiated by a person, anonymous person. Nobody knows that much about him. Some people say his name was Muhammad bin Ali. Some other people doubt the name or the existence of a name by a person by such name. And he claimed to be the Mahdi at that time. And he used some slogans used by the Kharijites, but he never joined them. He used it as a recruiting tool. And many people left him. But at the end, this revolution, the Zinj revolution, was dealt with in the year 256. After the defeat, his captives were freed. Okay. Regarding the intellectual and scientific aspect, at that time, like we said, many groups existed. Al-Mu'tazila, Ahlul Hadith, the Shia, with all of their groups, the philosophers, and Ahlul Kalam. There is difference between the philosophers and Ahlul Kalam. That's not now the scope of discussion, but there is difference. Baytul Hikmah was built, but it was built during the days of Harun al-Rashid. It was not built during the days of Al-Ma'mun. It flourished during Al-Ma'mun's era, but it was built during the days of Harun al-Rashid. And the translation flourished at that time, but it didn't start then. It started by Khalid ibn Yazid ibn Muawiyah in the year 84 of Hijrah during the Umayyads era. So, but that was the seeds for the translation. And what Harun Rashid built was the seed for Bayt al-Hikmah. But all of this flourished later on. And then Al-Mu'tazila at that time dominated the society, intellectually speaking. You have Al-Mu'tazila on one side, and you have Ahlul Hadith on the other side. Before the Mihna, the Mu'tazila were powerful. And we'll talk in details about the Mihna. Now, there was also great scientific advancement in all aspects. You know, Al-Ma'mun, as an example, commissioned a geographic project to measure the circumference of the Earth. and they drew maps were very accurate at that time. The most accurate maps drawn at that time were the maps initiated by Al-Ma'mun and his project. Now, regarding the fiqh now, we come to the fiqh. Fiqh in this era, it witnessed so many scholars. You know, Imam Ahmad, like we said, he was born in the year 164 and died in the year 241. So between the second and the third century, he lived part of the second and part of the third. So his era, we'll see scholars from both centuries. You have Layth, Malik. We don't count Abu Hanifa because Abu Hanifa rahimahullah died in the year 150, before the birth even of Imam Ahmad. So, but Qadi Abu Yusuf and Muhammad ibn al-Hasan, his two close students, were there. Shafi'i, Al-Karabisi, and in the hadith you have Sufyan ibn Uyayna, Al-Bukhari, Za'farani, Muslim. When you talk about Siyar, you have Abu al-Hasan al-Madaini and al-Waqidi. In the language, Arabic language, Al-Khalil ibn Ahmad al-Farahidi, Sibawai, Al-Asma'i, Al-Jahiz, Al-Mubarrad, Tha'lab, and so on. In Ilm al-Kalam, you have Al-Nadham, Mu'tazila, Al-Allaf, Mu'tazila, and Al-Qadi Abu Dawood also was from among the Mu'tazila. Those people were very close to Al-Ma'mun. Allaf was his sheikh, and Al-Qadi Abu Dawood was his advisor. Now the fiqh at that time was already established and was documented. We have Imam Shafi'i, we have first of all Malik documented Al-Muwatta, and Al-Muwatta is book of hadith and fiqh. We have Imam Shafi'i documented fiqh and documented usul fiqh. And we have Isa ibn Aban also, Hanafi jurist, started documenting usul. So the documentation already started, even the hadith documentation during that time. And we know Al-Bukhari and Muslim were in the same era. And both of them, by the way, students of Imam Ahmad.